Hello, everyone. My guest today is Nikos Moratakis. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Workable, makers of the popular recruiting software used by 6,000 companies in 80 countries. He led the company from its inception in 2012 to a fast-growing organization with 185 employees in US, Europe, raising $40 million of venture financing from many of the top European investors. He's also appeared as a speaker on the Nantucket Conference, SaaStr and SaaStock, and has been interviewed in popular podcasts and media like Forbes and the New York Times. He holds a computer science degree from Imperial College in London and lives with his wife and 2 children in Boston, Massachusetts. Nikos, are you ready to take us to the top?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, you're in a hot space. Did Glassdoor sell? Was it overvalued or undervalued? 1.2 billion.
Oh, I think that they're going to be worth a lot more than that.
Okay, good. So you think it was a good buy. It's HR Tech, which you're playing in. Tell us more about the company and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Workable is a recruiting software. It's fast becoming one of the most popular choices for SMBs doing recruiting, meaning companies with, let's say, 50 to a few thousand employees all over the world. I think we are in nearly 100 countries right now, 6,000 customers, and adding something like 400 or 500 every month.
Those are, just to be clear, those are paying customers, not users or something.
Yes, of course.
And you're adding 400 to 500 per month.
Yes.
That's great. And when was, so give me more of the backstory here. So you launched the company what year?
We started in 2012. So we've been at it for 5.5 years right now.
And what drove you to this idea? I mean, what were you doing at the time?
Before this, I was working in a fast growing company doing software for telcos, completely, different from Workable. What links the two is that we had to hire a lot of people really fast. So if you're a manager in a company that grows really fast, you get to hire a lot. So I basically had to deal with a lot of parochial options in terms of software.
You're talking about you had to hire a lot at the telco.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I used a lot of the stuff that's out there. And to be honest with you, most of it is pretty old, not very good. So we decided to do something slightly better ourselves.
Why didn't Indeed work?
Well, Indeed is a job site and it helps you find candidates, but it doesn't help you manage the process, run your career pages, manage your interviews, manage your feedback. So recruiting, there's a lot beyond just getting candidates. And most employers, precisely because they get most of the candidates online through Indeed, through social media, they need to have a digital way of managing the process itself.
So you don't compete with Indeed. There are many people that use Indeed and you.
Exactly. It's extremely common. Indeed was one of our closest partners, and many companies use job sites like Indeed to get the candidates, but then software like Workable, both to easily interface with something like Indeed, but also to manage the rest of the process all the way to the offer letter. And
is this a pure play SaaS business, or you pay per like applicant or job process managed or something?
It's a SaaS software. There's 2 ways to buy it. One way is a completely pay-as-you-go model for smaller companies where you pay $50 per job that you have active at any time. So you only pay when you use it for how much hiring you do. And for larger companies, there are annual plans depending on the needs and some more advanced enterprise features that they want.
So what would you say, this is going to be a tough question, but we don't have time to go on every cohort. What would you say the average customer pays you per month or per year?
A few $1,000s a year.
A few thousand. Okay. And generally speaking, how many hires does that get for them, or how many hires are they managing?
It's for companies that make, a few dozen hires a year.
Okay, fair enough. Good. So a few dozen hires.
There's many small companies with like 50 or 60 people who may be paying just a few $100 a year.
Yep. Good. But a good kind of middle is, call it maybe $2,000 a year to hire a dozen or 2 dozen employees.
Yes.
Okay. Now those numbers get big quick. If I take the 2,000, you said that's annually or monthly?
This is annually.
Or a couple thousand. Yeah, a couple thousand is annually. Got it. Okay, good. So I mean, have you guys broken? I mean, you take 6,000, you multiply by that annual number. I mean, have you guys passed the $1 million a month in revenue yet?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Do you mind sharing where you're at today?
The company is making somewhere like a little bit over 20 million a year.
Sorry, how much?
A little over 20 million a year.
A little over 20. Okay, 20 million a year. Good. That's healthy. And I want to understand kind of how you got your first 1,000 customers. Was it through a partnership like Indeed?
Actually, we just launched the software out there, and people started discovering it, coming in on their own.
Oh, come on, Nikos. I don't believe you can't make it that easy. There's people just starting out wondering, how'd he do it? Tell me the story. How'd you get your first customer?
It's the honest truth. We got to 10 million revenue without having a sales team. We just had the software out there and people were coming and buying it on their own online. So
but how are they finding it? Is it an SEO play?
It's a great degree of it is an SEO play.
Okay.
We are very good at it. We have the most popular HR website in the world right now. Our resources section on our site has thousands of guides and job descriptions and interview questions, and we do about 23 million unique visitors a year on our content. So a lot of people come to us because they're looking for an interview question or templates to do their offer letters or whatever. And then they discover the software, and then they post the jobs, and then they discover how easy it is to manage. The differentiating factor of Workable is its self-service nature. You can go in there and you can get this job done in a few minutes. In a few minutes, you'll be up and running. And now we have a sales team mostly to cater to bigger customers, but we got all the way to 10 million revenue without having a single sales.
What's your team size today?
Right now, we're about 170 people in Boston and Athens.
Boston and Athens. Okay, I'll come back to that in a second. But take me back to this SEO play. So how did you decide on kind of your first week of launching this tool? You put out in the wild, no one's viewing it. You say, let's go SEO. How do you pick which word to kind of optimize for first? Do you remember the first word you optimized for?
It was not a matter of words. It was the insight there was, what do people need to do when they're interested in hiring? So you want to hire a project manager. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look for a job description that you can modify.
So you would look at this and go, the current search volume on Google Trends for, template job description for product manager.
We have every job description you can imagine. We have thousands of them.
Interesting.
And right now, in the beginning, we said, let's find the 100 most popular jobs out there. Or you're going to look for interview questions.
I'm doing it right. By the way, I'm doing this right now. I just typed template job description for product manager. And you've got hiring.monster comes up, resources.workable.com. That's you. So walk me through. I mean, the first SEO term, I just looked it up. You're ranked there at the top. Indeed's paying for it, right? There's a lot of job descriptions you can rank for. I mean, how do you kind of decide, and why is it so critical to your strategy?
We said, what do people look for when hiring? Job descriptions, offer letters, interview questions. And we start making some content around that. And honestly, we just made some content. We didn't SEO optimize it. We put it out there.
You just typed it like a blog post.
Yes, exactly. We just really put the WordPress out there and just put them there with no organization, no nothing. A few months later, we were getting thousands of hits of them. And then we got an SEO expert, and then we organized this beautiful site you see with guides, with how-tos, with anything you can imagine. And people would just find the software, sign up, use it, pay for it. Over time, you get more sophisticated around how to pick up those leads, send them interesting stuff, nurture them, get them to convert through sales.
Nikos, tell me about your churn.
When you do SMB, your churn is relatively high. For companies with less than 100 people, you could be losing, some like 20% of your customers a year on that segment. However, it's a different type of churn than normal enterprise software. It's not people who are unhappy with the software. It's actually people who got their job done and they're not hiring anymore. And you see this because similarly, about 30% of our new business every month is returning customers, people who hired with us before, they left, and now they're hiring again and they're coming back.
So how do you measure your churn? I mean, you've raised a lot of capital, so you've put together decks with VCs and things, and they're always asked these kinds of questions. How do you have that conversation?
Look, VCs who are savvy about the SMB space know that SMB customers very often are sporadic or episodic in their use. So they have higher churn characteristic or churn and return and reactivation. Mm-hmm. So,
but like if I asked you, for example, what's your net revenue retention annually? What would you say?
Net retention is over 100%.
Okay. How much over 100?
It's about 101, 102.
Okay, so 102% net revenue retention. So that's pretty good at your price point in the SMB space, the fact that it's over 100.
Yes, because it's also affected by larger customers who stay and upgrade a lot, and they grow a lot with us. Very often you see someone starting at $50 and then they're paying, $15,000 a year. a few years later.
So what is the gross revenue churn, which obviously gets covered up by the expansion? That's how you get to the 102 net. But what's gross revenue churn?
Oh, the gross revenue churn is negative.
Well, gross revenue churn can't be negative.
The net is, the gross is something like 15%.
Okay, got it. So gross, you're losing 15% of your revenue, but you're expanding 17%, which gives you the net 102.
Exactly.
Got it. That's great. I mean, obviously that makes a lot of sense. And then what I'm hearing you say is, of that 15% you lose, every month, 30% of your new people coming back are actually returning people you lost earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, that's hard to communicate, but it's a great place to be, right? Because it's sticky, but harder to predict.
The most interesting thing with the SMBs is that you see large amount of churn in the beginning because the adoption they may be sporadic, they may be using it for a few months. But the ones who stay for a long time and they grow with you.
Yep.
So after year one, even for the smaller customers, retention is 100%.
Yep. So let me ask you a different question. What do you assume lifetime value is in dollars of these folks? Minimum.
Oh, minimum lifetime value is something like $3,500 to $4,000.
And you're looking up, kind of doing math in your head. What's the math you're doing on that question?
Well, essentially, for small companies, it's $3,500 to $4,000 lifetime value, but because it's completely self-service and because there's a lot of organic and SEO involved, it may be costing you as little as $500 to get a customer.
Yep. Okay, good. So I mean, is that kind of a good average CAC for you? Is about $500?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
If your LTV over CAC is more than 3, ours is 6.5.
Yep. But more importantly, if you're spending $500 to acquire a customer and they're paying $2,000 a year or about $250 a month, you're getting paid back in 2 months, which is a healthy payback period.
Exactly. So you can use recycling your capital very, very quickly, and that's how you can grow very quickly in this business.
What are you growing at? You're at north of 20 million in ARR today. Where were you 12 months ago?
We were 12 months ago, we're at 14.
Okay, so that's obviously really healthy growth. And you raised capital. How much have you raised to date?
We have raised about, $39 million.
Okay, all equity, or is there venture debt in there?
Yeah, VCs.
All VCs, interesting. And when was the last raise and how much was it for?
Last time we raised just a small 5 million round a few months ago to extend our B round.
Okay, when was the big B round? What month?
The big B round was in the summer of 2015. We raised 21 million.
Okay, so Nikos, let me ask you, when people see like a small follow-on like that, it typically means you tried to raise another round, you couldn't get the valuation you wanted, so the Series B people did a bridge for 5 to buy you time to get to the valuation you want. Is that accurate or no?
That, or you're making quite a bit of money and you're close to profitability and you would rather raise when you're profitable.
Okay, so are you close to profitability? You think you'll break it in the next couple months?
Yes, sometime next year.
That's great. That's very good. Congratulations. All right, let's wrap up here with.
But we might choose to put more money to growth. But if you don't need a lot of money very soon, sometimes it's an optimization.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, let me ask you this a different way. So you've raised, call it 39, 40 million. You're doing 20 million, north of 20 million today in AR. I mean, if someone came to you and offered you kind of 100 or 150 million to sell the company, do you sell?
No.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's 5x ARR.
No.
Why do you laugh? You make it sound like that's totally irrational.
I've been through these conversations, so I know the answer is no.
Yeah, but tell me why. What goes through your head when you hear something like that? Or you get a real offer?
Oh, you know what? I've had to deal with this question, obviously. You sell the company when you don't think that there's a ton of room to grow, if you don't like the business. So I like my job. I like what I do. And
are those the only two reasons?
I guess so, yeah.
Those are for you, those are really the drivers. Those are your kind of two things.
You would sell if you don't see yourself doing this 5 years from now, or you don't see it being much bigger 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. But if both of those are true, then it's very difficult to sell.
I mean, I would argue some of the most successful acquisitions actually don't fall into either of those categories. It's actually a different category, which is they're committed to some vision and they know if they align themselves with the acquirer, the growth of their tool will be exponential what it is versus being solo. And so that's why they sell, even if it's not at a crazy valuation.
That's true as well. That's true as well. You could have a case like that. But to be honest with you, I'm a little bit more cynical about these things.
It's probably smart, by the way.
Yeah, usually through an acquisition, there is, it becomes somebody else's property.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is no guarantee that it will go and achieve whatever vision you
Were you
had.
burned in the past, Nikos? Were you burned in the past?
No. It's the first time I'm building a company, so
okay,
I don't have a chance to burn.
You're just generally skeptical, right? You were taught well. You're supposed to be skeptical.
I don't know. I guess, yeah.
I think it's healthy. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's wrap. Go ahead.
I guess if you sell, you sell. That's what it means.
All right, let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book, I guess it's Nicholas Taleb's Fooled by Randomness.
Fooled by Randomness. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
CEO? No, I don't have someone specific.
Okay.
No.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your business besides your own?
Online tool that I like very much. I really like a performance review tool called Small Improvements.
Small Improvements. Good. And how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
How many?
Hours of sleep.
I try to get 8 hours of sleep at night.
And you get it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
And what's your situation? Married, single, you have kiddos?
I'm married. I have 2 kids.
2?
Yeah.
And how old are you? How old are you, Nikos?
1/2 and 3. So.
So they're 8.5 and 3. How old are you?
I'm 40.
40. All right. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
What I would tell my 22-year-old self. To try to not to plan things too much.
There you have it, guys. Try not to plan things so much, says the creator of a planning tool for your recruiting needs. Launched the company back in 2012, bootstrapped it. He just realized when he was working in a telecom previous to this, he couldn't scale and hire and scale hiring effectively. So he went out, built this tool in 2012. Now has over 6,000 customers, paying, call it $2-ish grand per year, or said differently, they've just passed 20 million bucks in ARR. That's up from 14 million about a year ago. So healthy growth rate. They've got 102% net revenue retention annually. Tucked into that is 15% gross revenue churn annually, but it's not like a typical business. 30% of his new business every month is actually from past customers who stopped hiring because the system works so well, right? That's obviously what it does. His team is 170 people based between Boston and Athens. Super healthy payback period. They spend 500 bucks to acquire a customer that pays $2,000 a year. So 2-month payback period, $4,000 LTV at a minimum. Healthy business. Thank you so much for taking us to the top, Nikos.
Thank you, Nathan. It's been a pleasure.